Hey guys, and welcome to episode 123 of Meeple to Meeple, publishing on hard mode. As always, I'm PJ, and so what we're going to do is today we're going to talk about trying to publish your first game in this period of division and discord and all of the grossness that's around, but we're going to have a positive message for you. I've got Sean and Michael from Glass House Games. Sean, Mike, how are you guys doing?
We are well. Oh, I can't speak for Mike, but I am well.
I'm great. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, PJ, for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is great.
Yeah. Thanks
I'm
for being on. I'm really interested to just talk to you guys. I've got so many questions about y'all. So many questions. But I guess let's get it out of the way. Why did I invite you guys on, right? So y'all are about to launch a game called Whisker Wars on May 13th.
That's correct.
Excellent. So I thought it was really interesting because everything that's happening right now, you're entering both the game community and the game industry. So, you're seeing it you've got two lenses that you're looking at this from, one as a business and another as a gamer, right? Yeah. So who wants to start off and talk a little bit about that?
I'm happy to hop into it.
Yeah.
So Sean and I and Logan, who's not here, our brain behind the operation, we're all gamers at heart. So we've been a part of the gaming community for as long as we could remember, started with video games, then got into tabletop. So we are super happy to be here. It's the best community I think I've ever been a part of. And now we get to hopefully one day make games for that same community we've got to enjoy for so long.
Yeah.
So it's a huge motivating factor for us to go forward. To your sort of question, it is a unfortunately volatile moment in the industry with the sort of state of the worldwide economy and everything that's kind of going on. It's hard to avoid. So there is a big sort of question mark on how we are proceeding forward. Why now is a big one we kind of get a lot. A lot of people don't think it's like, why are you choosing right now? We've chosen this sort of time frame a long time ago.
Sure.
So we've been building up to this moment, and thankfully the ramp has been great. We've had this kind of really motivating snowball effect of just like growing community around us, and people were really supportive. So the moment feels right for us. Can't say this is the same for everyone across the board. And Sean, I can see you're itching to hop in.
Yeah, I do. I mean, this always happens where you say something, I'm like, ooh, I want to piggyback off that. I was going to add to this and I think we can talk about more of this later, but the community itself, and yes, grew up in games, but intentionally participating in the community.
Right.
Has led to interactions and relationships that are so uplifting and positive that I think it would take a lot more than what's going on right now for us to be deterred from participating in the industry. The support we've gotten, the feedback, the encouragement. Yeah, it's going to take a lot. I think it's going to take a lot more than, and this is not to discount the industry right now.
Absolutely.
But we want in. And it's for the people. I love games. There's a million great games out there. I'm never going to play them all, but I would like to meet everybody and play games with those people. So if right now that means fighting through an uncomfortable situation with our launch, then I'm still happy to do it.
I love it. So Sean, tell me, did you also, like Michael, start in video games, or how did your journey begin?
Dude, my parents hated video games. They were like, no. They're like, no video games, never, ever. And then my uncle brought home a PS2, and that was the end. A little bit of yes, a little bit. Let me know if my mic is too loud. But a little bit of yes, a little bit of no. My dad was a big chess player, so he taught. I have two younger brothers, so he taught me chess, and then I taught them chess from a really young age. I'm still not great at it. It's the cruel mistress. I love playing, but it doesn't always love me back. So I started early with Logic games and stuff like that. And then also diving early into fantasy, like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars were huge. I grew up on those. And so it was always in the lexicon of my upbringing. I played Magic the Gathering before I knew how to play. I would just look at the cards and then be like, my dragon is obviously bigger than your dragon. And ergo, I win. And my brothers would be like, that's not fair. I won. So it was all there. And then, video games came in, and just the love of play was huge. Big deal. The love of play, and it still remains something I hold very dearly, because it's that one moment where you and I can relate, and we can relate outside of reality and still in a healthy way.
Right. Right.
Without it being like, there are unhealthy ways to relate outside of reality where you're just kind of
absolutely
off on the range. But then
absolutely
this can be something healthy we do together and something that actually contributes to our in real life relationship.
Right.
That has no real stakes other than the king is missing, who shall claim the throne kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love that.
So.
That is great. And I have a follow-up question. But before that, I'm not going to disappoint everyone. I have a quote from an ancient philosopher that's relevant to what you just said. You were talking about play has always been in your life and you love play and everything. So this is an amazing quote from the Greek philosopher Plato. He said that you can discover more about a person from an hour of play than you can from a year of conversation.
I love that.
That
right?
Could not be more true. Play any campaign of D&D or any TTRPG ever. You are going to peel back so many layers of someone's persona so much faster than just casually friends in the real world.
That is why I maintain that you can't just approach the hobby and separate the people from it, right? I think it was a couple conversations episodes ago with Laura. We were talking about community unity and we talked about our worldviews informing how we approach games. With that in mind, Sean's worldview was defined by the game of chess and other logic games. So I'm really curious about that.
Yeah.
I'm curious about that relationship. What either soft skills or any critical thinking that you've developed from childhood to now that you have found useful in trying to publish your first game in this period?
I really appreciate that question because it's fascinating to me. I hadn't ever thought about that. Like, I guess our upbringings are very much shaped by obviously what we consume, but then like how we play, what we watch, video games, board games, whatever. Movies, books. It's funny, I'm caught by this question because Mike's our logic guy. Mike does the game mechanics.
I was gonna say this is a great question, and I, without even ever thinking about it before the question was asked, know the answer to what mine is. I was.
Go.
Are you gonna guess mine for me?
No, I'm not gonna guess yours for you. I was gonna relate. I was gonna say, go ahead, and then I'll follow up.
I was raised competitively, 100%. I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. I played a bunch of sports growing up. So my competitive nature seeps into my very persona, regardless of the type of game I play. Friendly competition, of course. Nothing too crazy. Right. But as sort of Sean is saying, as being the sort of logics game mechanic brain behind the operation in a way, we all are. But like, I like to take that as like my slice of priority. That definitely fuels my portion of what I do, or just like us pushing forward as a company or as a business or as a game, publishing in an unknown time. It's like I see the challenge and just cannot help but want to overcome it, no matter how hard it seems like.
So, yeah, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, Mike, because Mike is like, hey, yeah, I'm your friend. And then you play, and he means it too. He's your friend. And then you sit down at any game. It could be Uno. It could be Twilight Imperium. He's going to want to destroy you on a molecular level.
For sure.
And then if he doesn't win, no offense, Mike, if you don't win, you get upset. It's like,
it's all in good taste. It's all in good taste.
We'll play a game that we made ourselves, and he's like, "This game's terrible. I lost.
This game's horrible. Who made this game?"
I have a feeling that if Michael and I are at a game table together, I'm going to frustrate Mike so much because I find a way of taking a competitive game and turning it into a cooperative game.
PJ, you and I would get along so well. I want to see this in action because there's nothing that makes me happier than watching steam come out of Mike's ears. So, but I will say, to bring this back around to your question, I was like, whoa, like, what is it? Because I grew up on chess, and I grew up on, like, MTG, but I think for me, what drives my love of game design, and this is a big question, I guess, is that, and I talk about this quite a bit, Mike, you'll recognize this, the beautiful enmeshment between mechanics and thematics. Chess, as an example, is an awesome example, and I hadn't actually ever thought about it until you asked me this question, what the blending of mechanics and thematics are. And I'll, for anyone who doesn't understand what I'm saying, is like there's this moment where when a piece or a piece of a game, I guess that's what same thing, when a piece's mechanics match its thematics, there's like a beautiful harmony that makes sense and it feels good. For example, the knight in chess, it's a horse for anyone who doesn't play, and it's the only piece that can leap over other pieces and has this very sporadic kind of movement style. It's not sporadic at all, but for the first time player, they'll be like, what?
Right.
But it's the only piece that can leap, and it's great because it's a horse. But why wouldn't it be able to jump over things?
There are pawns, and pawns can only move one. It just like feels like the weakest type one.
So
exactly.
So the queen, did you know the queen? I think it was Queen Isabella. The queen is based off of Queen Isabella of Spain because she was so powerful.
Yeah.
She had so much influence in Europe that they were like, this piece needs to be stronger. She only used to be able to move one at a time. And then Queen Isabella dominated the Europe and the Americas. Was she, I believe?
Europe.
And they were like, this piece is now stronger. We're gonna make her superior.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a great little history fun thing.
Yeah,
but two, that's another blending of the mechanics. And so anytime Mike and I are coming up with things and he comes up with a brilliant mechanic, I'm like, that's great. Who does that belong to? In terms of like Whisker Wars, for example,
yes.
Which character does that go to? Because thematically that doesn't work, or thematically that's perfect over here. Because okay, you're pulling from the graveyard. Okay, the Gekromancer is a necromancy type character. A pull from the graveyard mechanic fits beautifully with the Gekromancer because of that harmony, and that's where I love to. That's like where I love to sit in terms of game design. That's like my favorite spot.
So Mike is the game mechanics when you're working on a game, and then you're the theme guy trying to match it if you can.
Yeah, and it's not always in that order. Sometimes sometimes it ebbs and flows, and but yeah, a lot of the time it'll be me being like, "What about this?" And Mike's like, "No." That's broken.
If you were to boil down our game design process to the simplest form, Sean texting the group chat with like, what if we had a game that was this, set in this crazy world, and all of them did this? And we're like, great, 20% of that's awesome, get rid of the 80%, and let's work on that 20%. And then he's like, yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah, but then every time you get rid of the 80%, that 80% just happens to include giant robots, and it makes me upset.
It's like, get the mechs out of here,
You always axe the mechs.
What do you have against mechs?
What do you have against mechs, Mike?
I love mechs, but Whisker Wars just would not have been as good if there were mechs in it. Maybe in expansion 18, there could be a feature.
So I only know what I've seen on your Instagram through all the reels, right, and everything. And I want to talk about the art in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But why couldn't a cute, whimsical animal not operate a mech of some sort?
That is a very good point.
Right? I mean, I feel like that's a possibility.
There's certainly, if the way that we put it to assuage Sean's fears of not being able to play and have the cool things he wants in the future of Whisker Wars, we say, if we get to a certain point, you can have whatever you want, bud.
You're making me out to be like the kid who wants candy, and they're like, yeah, we'll get candy later.
The kid wants candy, let's be honest.
The kid wants candy.
So let's talk about, in Whisker Wars, it's, I forgot the name of the realm. What is
Supetra.
Supetra.
Yeah.
But let's say if we took Supetra and put it in a historical context of Earth, what time period is it? Would you say it parallels?
I'm looking at Mike because I have an answer. For me, it is. Oh man, this is gonna show my total history nerd. To me, it is after 10. It's right after 1066.
Battle of Hastings.
Battle of Hastings and the pushing of the Norwegians out of England at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, I believe.
So we're talking about
following
11th, 12th century. All right. So here's my follow-up question to get back to mechs. Would it not then be possible, Michael? Would it not then be possible? I don't know how this ended up being me putting you on the spot, but
I love it.
Here's your future expansions, right? You could then take your fictional realm forward in the future, right? As technology develops. So you could do gunpowder, and then you could introduce that type of weaponry, and then eventually air power, sea power, and then ultimately the kid's going to get his candy, and you could have a mech expansion, right?
That would be so cool.
That's 4 expansions right there that you could release in the future. When this trade war might be over, let's hope.
I can't wait for both of those things. 1, the expansion that has mechs, and 2, for this trade war to be over, because then all of us will be happy.
Yes. Yeah. I am with you, PJ. That sounds like exactly the trajectory we should be on. And yeah, they always love to poke fun at anytime I see a mech or something. It's just, I'm a big Titanfall fan, like OG Titanfall and Titanfall 2, and then Armored Core and all that stuff. And so, yeah, that's a good point. They could have a mech. There should be mechs.
Yeah.
So my next question is for the both of you. So here's one where I'm actually, this is more of a formal question where I would expect both of you to answer. But I'm wondering,
serious hat.
what games are you, what board games are you outside of Whisker Wars, obviously, because you're prepping for it, are you enjoying playing right now?
Ooh.
Like what's on your table recently?
Great.
I'm not going to ask you what your favorite game is. You got to pick one.
Yeah.
But what are you enjoying right now? What's inspiring you today?
So PAX Unplugged this past year? Picked up Kelp, and I've been playing Kelp a lot with my partner. I love that freaking game. It is such a unique blend of a couple different fun thematics in a way that at first I thought it would be more overwhelming, but after the first game, you're like, nah, I get it. I like this. I don't know what there has to be said that I only get to play the octopus and my fiance only gets to play the shark, but I love it, and it's a lot of fun just trying to, skedaddle my way through different bushes away from her. So
that is
and the thematic. It's another game where it's like like to Sean's point earlier, where the thematic matches the mechanics of the game
absolutely
perfectly.
Yeah,
and so well done.
A quick shout out to Carl, the designer of the game, who we had on here before. In fact, when Kelp launched on Kickstarter, we had him on because y'all are new to the show. You have to go back to the audio only episodes.
Heck yeah, right on.
Which you can all find on YouTube. But yeah, because we only started doing video with episode 100, which was October of last year.
Oh, very cool.
Right on.
Yeah. But I know that Carl listens regularly, so he's going to enjoy the shout out. So Kelp, that's a good one.
Awesome.
That's really good and ties in with everything we've just talked about in terms of trying to marry theme and mechanics. What about you, Sean?
Yeah.
What are you enjoying right now?
Another beautiful marriage of theme and mechanics. We actually played it recently, Mike. He knows what I'm going to say. It's Unmatched. By Restoration Games and Rob Davio, right?
Yeah. It's them in Restoration Games. Unmatched is awesome.
So Unmatched is great, and my love of it comes from that thematics mechanics synergy. So it's asymmetrical characters. Everyone gets their own short deck. It's an arena battler, so someone who grew up like playing Halo 2 or Halo 3 in a small arena, forced to fight each other, and then the characters are awesome. So it's all like open IP. So it's like Red Riding Hood. So this is my favorite matchup. Is Red Riding Hood versus Beowulf, because it's Red Riding Hood versus the wolf, but it's not the wolf, it's Beowulf, which I think is really cool.
Wow.
And then each character has their own kind of like play style. So the set that I have is the Shakespearean set. Okay. So you have Shakespeare versus the Three Fates versus Hamlet versus Titania. And for a great example is Hamlet. At the beginning of your turn, you can either to be or not to be. And if you to be, you draw extra cards, and if you not to be, you deal extra damage. So it's like very simple mechanics like that that are perfect for the character. We just played recently, and I think Mike had a good time, right, Mike?
0.9% won, I'm pretty sure.
As
the three fates, they're great. A lot of fun. Love that game. Love winning a game. Have I said that?
Maybe.
You have. Yeah. You have made that very clear.
Very clear, yeah. Yeah.
What, again, another question for the two of you. What games, if any, I'm sure there are a list, inspired you in the development of Whisker Wars?
Ooh.
Like you played a game and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So we are definitely, at least for a lot of like abilities and sort of, there's a couple different games. The short list is like MTG, Magic the Gathering. We're all three of us are Magic the Gathering players. We love our weekly, semi-weekly Commander nights. And we wanted, the whole sort of intention of Whisker Wars was to create this sort of entry level, almost scaffolding like game that can take newer players to the genre and give them that sort of brain scratch, that itch for more of those complex battlers like MTG, Yu-Gi-Oh, Lorcana, Pokemon. So there's definitely a lot of inspiration from MTG in that sense. In another simpler sense, there's also the inspiration from D&D, which is one of our favorite games. Sean and I are in a campaign together, 2 campaigns together, hilariously.
3, dude. I run you through Lancer.
Oh, that's right. D&D.
Oh, D&D.
Two D&D campaigns together where we took the super easy to understand initiative system of
Yeah.
just, and we made that sort of the core loop of how the actual cards play and the timing of the cards themselves. So it's just super easy. Look for the highest number on the table. That card goes, so on and so forth. So we sort of took that idea from D&D, and then I think there's probably other inspirations too, but I think those are the two quickest ones that come to mind.
Sean, is there anything you want to add to that in terms of
Yeah, there
inspiration?
was a game. Well, one. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just like my brain's reeling. Yeah, you mentioned D&D, Mike, and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that is like we talk about this all the time." And I love that idea of like the game engine, right? The core loop. This was something that I think JB Stegmaier talked about. Where did we read
Probably.
this?
Yeah.
The core loop of like, what's the core of your game? Why is it fun? Why do I want to keep playing? Like these are really important questions, and that being like a simple mechanic of like an engine that simply drives the game from whatever's next, and then the other thing has to go, and it has to go, and you have to continue playing the game. So it's like it kind of cuts down on analysis paralysis and all these other things that drag games out. It's like the game is forcing you to play it at a certain speed, which I think is really fun. The other game that I was going to bring up was a game that I played a while ago, which we had some inspiration from it. They do a nice job with their health trackers that we were like, oh, this is great. This is we can get into this later too, but it's a really great, from a manufacturing standpoint, a really smart way to do this. And it was a game called Battle Wizards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Battle Wizards.
Yeah.
And for all those who haven't played, it's a very adult game. Careful around kids. But just a fun anecdote with that. I played with my first time I ever played, I played with a bunch of actors. And they had a house rule where if you didn't cast your spell in your wizard's voice, it didn't count. So you had all these like very passionate actors,
right,
with doing hilarious voices and full bore casting spells at you across the table. It was very fun. But yeah, that's awesome. Kind of it.
That's it. That's interesting. So, any recent challenges outside of things we've already talked about? Talk about the challenges in the process that you had and how you overcame them.
Whoa.
I think there are a lot of challenges that. So to preface, Sean, Logan, and I, the Glass House team, we've been very fortunate to have made a lot of industry connections over the past 2 years, going to PAX Unplugged, talking to people at Kickstarter. We joined the Unpub Tabletop Mentorship Program, where we got put with who's essentially like our big brother now, Ross Thompson, and many of our friends and connections we made, like to say friends because it doesn't ever feel like a connection in this industry. It's just friends and peers. But all of these friends and peers have given us really good advice at each sort of turning point in the sort of journey of this process. With all of that being said, there are so many challenges that come up that you can never even anticipate. And they say that, and they've been saying that's like, don't think just because you feel like you're done and you're ready that you're just going to coast through this. There's always going to be things that come up. And I can't think of any specific challenges right now. I feel like every day there's challenges, Mike, that we kind of...
You taught yourself 2D animation because we couldn't afford it.
True.
Like we were like that was the example I was going to bring up, is like we have found that we've had to learn things very quickly because of, one, budget constraints, and two, because of timing constraints. So we're like, okay, we could, even if we had the budget, we realize we need XYZ assets that are, for example, Blender or 2D animation for our video. And it's like, straight up, we don't have the funds. We're a small company. We spent most of our money on art and advertising. And then we were like, okay, we need some kind of 2D animation. And Mike goes, yeah, I guess I'll figure that out. And like 2 weeks later, we had like a fully functioning like intro video, very rudimentary, but very good.
Yeah, nice. It's Adobe has become a very familiar friend of mine over the past year and change. At this point, Adobe Animate, Adobe InDesign, Logan's a virtuoso at this point with Photoshop and Blender. So it's just a lot of different. But putting on new hats we never knew how to wear before.
But these are all, to my point, these are all things that it wasn't like we came in like, I know Blender and I know InDesign, let's make a game. It was like, I have to learn that now. Or they have to learn that now. Tom's over there like, I'm just going to write stories. So that was, to their credit, like putting on a hat that had maybe never been on before and like running with it.
Right.
This is like when we go to game conventions all the time and people are like, oh yeah, I'm a designer. Like, oh cool, with who? And they go, just me. And it blows my mind. Blows my mind.
It's like one-person teams that are just like, you must be a genius.
Yeah,
and the hardest working person I know in order to do certain, like, because it doesn't even matter the weight of a game. Just a publishing process period is an arduous, long process.
Our game is light. Our game is pretty light, and the to-do list that we put together in the last 2 months before launch, I was stressed, and I had the easiest part of the list.
It's like 174 action items for like 2 calendar months just to get before Kickstarter launch.
So my hat is off to anybody that does this by themselves, or like we have 3 and like
still feels like a lot.
Still feels like a lot. It is a lot. Yeah. So the challenges, the obstacles are all of them.
Yeah.
And I think Mike said it, which is we just didn't know. We didn't know how much writing there'd be for, this, like the social media aspect alone is just like prepping days and days and days of launch materials, the assets, like having to have visual assets to accompany text. Those have to be built. The video has to be built. Outreach to media has to be done. Like the velocity at which you travel when you're launching a game is it's a lot for one person. It's a lot for 3 people. So
have you found that velocity, because you're like a week out, right?
Week and change.
Thank God.
Has the velocity gone up, or has there kind of been a lull? It's going up. Yeah,
it's gone up.
That's
everyone kind of said it would too. Like as you get closer to launch, it's not going to get easier. It's only going to get busier. But we're also sort of hats off to all of the great people that have given us so much advice over the past couple of months, is that we've been able to learn from these people months ago to have this stuff done ahead of time. So it's like we are crunching so hard to get all of these things done a week and change out. We've been doing it for the past month, but like a week and change out from our Kickstart launch so that it's ready. So that we're not every day when we get home from our normal jobs and then come home and sit at our computers, we're doing hours of work to keep up with it every single day. So it's like we're taking as smart and efficient of an approach to it as possible, which cannot be said for everyone. And some people just don't know how much it is involved in making a game or just launching, period. So I'm just very fortunate that we've had that in our corner.
Yeah, and to just make a last point here is like we also have to our credit, we are not afraid of asking for help, and to their credit, we have an awesome network of people who have said, like one of Mike and Logan's friends works, their full-time job is 3D design. So they designed our blister tray, something that like
we would have never been able to do.
We'd have never been able to do that. And we have
genius.
One of Logan's friends is like big in graphic design. So she's helping us with our Kickstarter page. And this is all just people who are just like down to help us because we're coming to them open and honestly being like, we need a hand here.
Yeah.
And that's coming from three of us. So I can imagine how it must, how doing it alone, you need a lot of help.
Are all 3 of you in Brooklyn?
No. So the 2 of us are, and then Logan's based out of Boston.
Right? Okay. That's got to be a little bit of a challenge too, right?
Sometimes,
Yeah, in a way, I think the pros outweigh the cons on that one because then we get an even sort of wider net in terms of, because like we love I personally love playtesting events. I love like when we just get together with the community, host an event at a local game store or a cafe or something like that, and then just bring other designers or just like friends and family together. So like we get to do that now out of 2 hubs, Boston and New York. So I love that. Yes, it does involve a 4-hour trip up to up to Boston after work, but it's all in the love of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's a chance that Logan even
we're going to manifest that on this right now.
We're going to get him to move.
He's going to relocate to Brooklyn.
It's potentially in the works. We say that as he is currently on vacation right now and will not see this.
Okay.
He will. He'll be like, guys.
So I want to talk about the art for a minute. I'm trying to remember some of the descriptions. The key word that I saw in your social media to describe the art for Whisker Wars was whimsy or whimsical. You hear that a lot. So I don't know if you've noticed. So my question is 2 parts, right? One, it's specific about your game, and then a larger question. There has been a trend. There's so many games where the theme in the artwork could be defined as whimsical. We're seeing a whole lot of that. So my first question to you, or the first part, is what do you think's going on? What do you think's motivating that? And then secondly, why did you choose a more whimsical art oeuvre, if you will? And Michael seems like he's ready.
So
Michael wants it, that's a good question.
Great question. So I think we knew specifically when we were going to market with Whisker Wars that we needed a digestible theme. And we did not make a brand new unique theme. It is anthropomorphic warriors in a fantasy world. It's been done hundreds of times over. We have no problem with that. But we love it, and people love it, and it's just a great medium. It's digestible, it's cute, and then it's not just cute. Sometimes it's, super cool. Like we made some really cool characters in there that are not cute, and they're super. Can I curse on here? It's bad ASS. So, guys, supposed to do it? Yeah, you're very welcome. So I love the sort of duality of what we've created in the world, of it being both super cool and cute. But to answer your question, I think there is, like, generally across the industry, making something look more digestible makes it an easier to market product, period. Sure. Like if it just looks cuter and simpler, then someone is more likely to purchase it without even knowing what the contents of the game are, or the skill level, or how long the playtime is. If you have a super heavy box that's full with sci-fi themes and it's in space and you're seeing this massive board on it, people are going to be into that. I am into games like that. Sean is into games like that. But your average everyday consumer might look at that and think, ooh, that's too heavy. Oh, that's a little scary. That's a daunting theme. I'm going to pick up this thing that's got a cat in a catapult on the box. And I'm like, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That, I think, Mike touches on a really important thing, which is, like, if I'm looking for a new game, I would like to have a first impression of the game that matches the game after I've bought it.
Sure.
I'm not going to name names, but there are games that kind of trick you, where it looks approachable and light, and you open the game and it's an asymmetrical Doom battler, and you're like, what is? I have to reread these directions tenfold. Like, so we wanted to make sure that, like, if our game is intending to bring in new players, then we want to make sure that art catches new players' eyes and tells them, hey, I'm accessible to you. I'm a safe place for you, new player, to come in and play this game. So that was a lot of our motivating. And then also, like, there's a history of, like, anthropomorphic stories.
Absolutely.
In accessibility to kids. You talk about Zootopia, you go all the way back to Disney's Robin Hood. Like, these are stories where anthropomorphic characters are intended for kids. So it already leans that way.
It would be remiss of us not to mention Redwall as well as a big thematic sort of inspiration for us as a game. We grew up with Redwall. A lot of people grew up with Redwall. We wanted to give that sort of Redwall inspired battling sensation into a cute sort of little box. So that was sort of one of our many goals with Whisker Wars.
So that means that your target audience is Jack and Jill off the street and entering this community and this industry?
There's, like, so it's like, that's like that's interesting, because there's two sides to that coin. Our target, short answer, yes. We want it to be available to new players that aren't hardcore gamers, players that MTG is too much for them. It also is supposed to be a nice point for their friends to be like, hey, maybe MTG is too complicated. Want to try this? And then you can drag people into the mire of games. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I understand these mechanics. What's that MTG about?
Right.
Draw your friends in. Well, it's supposed to be accessible to new players and have enough depth and fun and mechanics to scratch the itch of veteran players.
I've heard some talk. Both of you have mentioned a lot about kids, right? So is part of your target audience a family oriented and a children's accessible, making this game that way?
So I think we took a lot of effort in the creative process of the game to make it approachable to, I'm not going to say all age ranges, because I don't think a 3 or 4 year old is going to be able to pick up this game.
Right.
But, like, 8 and up, 100%. Like, thematically wise, mechanics wise, we tried to keep it as simple and digestible as possible so that you can play with your family. I mean, let's all be real. We're all at conventions. We see 9-year-olds whipping out their commander deck and absolutely trucking 39-year-old players at the game table. So that level of intellect is already skyrocketing in that younger generation, which is super scary and awesome at the same time. But we wanted to make sure we created a game that was accessible to everyone. We didn't want it to feel like there was just a specific niche this was going towards. Don't get me wrong. We know are a super fan for the most part. Like they talk a lot about a super fan when you're building a game for the first time. It's like if you were to choose one sort of pocket, one sort of slice of gamer that you would market this to, who would it be? So ours is typically the card battler, MTG sort of player. So that's our super fan. And if you played MTG before and you pick up Whisker Wars, you're going to enjoy it because it's made by a bunch of MTG nerds that wanted a more digestible medium. But to answer your question, yeah, why not? Why can't it be a family game? You know, we kept it light. We don't use things like attack. We don't use like health or like life or like killing players in the game. Like we use all digestible language. Like morale, for instance, is our health. So we use it more from a standpoint of like your warriors will only follow you if you have morale. Your morale hits 0, they all run away. So we tried to keep the thematics very, again, intertwined into the mechanics of the game. And I think we did a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, we actually did intentionally do that because I love Victoria. She's awesome. She's awesome to work
with. Our artist,
Our artist, Victoria. And she kept putting in like really gruesome stuff. And we're like, dude, please pull back on that. I love it. It's awesome. But like, we're also trying to not scare away, maybe like, you want, like my mom doesn't play a lot of board games. Like Magic is way over her head, but like I could see a world where like she would play this. So like, it's all to say, like, it's supposed to bring people together. And there are some themes that are too much for some people. So, or too harsh or too one way or the other. But if you can find a common ground, then you have a table to sit at together. And it fulfills one of the pillars of Glasshouse, which is make games that genuinely bring people together.
Right.
So,
I love that. That mission I totally support. What was it like on a personal level? You've talked about you got a lot of support from the designer community and everything, but what about like any emotional content, emotional obstacles you had to overcome either internally or maybe you got some resistance from a few personalities? Because the thing that's interesting about this community is that we're not all the same, right? So there's some good personalities, there's some neutral, and then there's
those chaotic evil.
Anything that stood out for you that was a defining moment, and how did you get past it or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Great question. We like to say a lot. It's like we've had a lot of great feedback and positive affirmations in our sort of journey. It has not all been positive. It has not all been great, happy, hunky dory. There has been a handfuls of people. It hasn't been a large, majority, but handfuls of people. Won't say names or anything that we've met with and we've showcased the game to and we play tested with across playtesting events, conventions, personal one-on-ones, onlines, whatever. Some people do not like the game. And some people are very vocal about it. And that's fine. Like I think ultimately we are trying to make a game that's approachable to all, but that is just unrealistic because of what you just said. Everyone is different, first and foremost. Gamers are also very different amongst each other and their play styles and what they're looking for in a game or how they want to approach an objective of a game. And it's like that's the beauty of games is that there's 1,000,001 games on the market for you to choose from. This might not be yours, and that's totally fine. But that definitely pushes us to make the game as better and great as possible. So we like to flip any challenge into a thing that we can use to motivate us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Mike. Like that's the beauty of the industry is like even if you are one of the most competitive, aggressive dudes at the table, there's still a game for you out there. Like there's still a table that playing your favorite game.
Yeah,
over
there's a mono blue commander deck waiting for you somewhere.
Even if you're not my friend, exactly. Jesus. So my point was like, even if I'm not going to be your friend, you will find friends here because there'll be people that will want to play the games you want to play and play at your style. Like everyone has a place. And that is what I think is the beauty of the industry is one, everyone for the most part, like 99.9% of people have been open arms welcoming.
Yeah.
And that goes across the board, whether it's who you are, where you're from, your orientation, whatever, how you like to dress, doesn't matter. You have a community that welcomes you. You have a space to play and a space to be who you are and space to be honest. And I think it's refreshing. I think that was my emotional bit about it was like, wow, what an arena where you can find such a diverse crowd and they all want to be here. And they all have, the conventions that I've been to, the judgment's been at an all-time low across the board. People are usually very like, oh, everyone's here to play games.
I would love to piggyback off that for one last point on this. Yes, there's a lot of challenges and there have been times when people have not had the most nice things to say. I will say from an emotional standpoint, though, as hoping to bring our first game to market, brand new indie publishing company, kind words of affirmations really go a long way. Like there are some days where we are absolutely exhausted from just our regular day jobs, and we're cranking 2 to 4 hours of glasshouse work a night or every other night, and just one kind comment from someone just makes the whole week, the whole month worth it. And there's been a couple of those pockets where we can feel our emotional morale dipping a little bit just because of the process, and it's exhausting and it's a lot of work. And then 1 or 2 nice things will come through and we'll just skyrocket up the next day. And again, thankfully we have 3 of us. So whenever one of us is down, one of us is up. So it's a great sort of balancing to have a trio working together. But those kind words of affirmation, be nice to gamers is what I'm trying to say. Even if you don't like the game, there's something about it that's great, I'm sure.
You guys are definitely blessed that there's 3 of you. Just in the podcast world, the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes to create this product that you consume at no cost to you. There's a financial burden, there's a burden of time, there's so much work. I feel you. I don't put in quite as many hours, but it's moments of intense, 100%. Dedicated time and emotion. And I think the worst thing for me is just crickets, right? I get no feedback. And so I'm like, well, I guess I'm doing okay, tough. Right? So, I get a little aggressive with, tell me what do you think about the podcast? I feel that. So here's a question. And I had this one to ask you. I was going to ask you this from the beginning. I always plan to ask this question. Lately, the concept of vulnerability has come up on the podcast. So my question to you is, because I think about this a lot for me, how did you prepare yourself, or was it easy for you to be vulnerable and open to criticism, whether constructive or negative, during playtesting and the entire process of development?
I would love to start. I feel like I keep taking these, Sean. Sorry.
Don't care. You can do it. Go ahead.
Vulnerability. This is a great question, and almost a great segue off of the last question. Vulnerability is such a good and necessary portion to creation, period. Regardless of what you're trying to create, we're trying to create a game, a story, whatever have you. Vulnerability is so important because there's so many different avenues I could take off this. One example is we have a friend of mine who's designing a game, and he's been working on it for 5 years, and he's only showed his friends and his close family. And I'm like, dude, this game is great. Get this game out there. Go to a local game store. Play with random people. People want to play these new games, and he's just too scared. And he's not at that moment yet where he wants to do that. And that's hard. It's hard to take something you've worked on for years to bring to someone who you know nothing about, and then have them potentially tear your game to shreds. Not everyone has that etiquette, that playtesting etiquette that we've grown to learn over the past 2 years of like how you really approach unpub playtesting and how you sort of give critique back that doesn't feel overwhelmingly negative. So that's one avenue of that vulnerability. The most important thing that I think for me when I joined the community as an entrepreneur trying to make a game for the first time 2 years ago, that first PAX Unplugged we went to, I think it was 2023, as a trio, was so like eye-opening to how open the community is. Like I come from film and TV. I've been working my career as film and TV for the past 7 years. Not everyone's super nice in this industry. It's a very cutthroat industry. Everyone's trying to get a leg up on each other. So there's a lot of metaphorical buses coming around every single corner. In tabletop, everyone is so nice and so open. You can ask anyone a question, and assuming they have the time and they have a moment and they're not super busy, because everyone's very busy at conventions, they will tell you, they will hand you the keys to success, and they will not withhold any sort of key sort of information or anything like that. They will just give you everything that they've learned over their experience and as much of a medium that you can consume. And I've never worked in an industry where people are that open about how to succeed, and we actively strive all of the time to put that same energy back out into the community. We actively tell anyone, you have any questions, you want to spitball an idea and get some ideas, we're brand new, but we'd be happy to have an email conversation or a phone call or anything with you guys. Anything we can do to give back for those that gave to us to get us to where we are now is so crucial to the industry.
I think it's an industry, to exactly Mike's point, that this is an industry that genuinely believes that a rising tide raises all ships. So the more help you can put into the industry, that kind of goodwill is going to come right back around. And I believe that too. But it's
we
nice
all want to play
yeah,
games.
everyone wants to play games.
We all want to play games.
I really like what you said, Mike, about vulnerability, because at the end of the day, if you're creating something, you are exposing yourself and you're taking a risk. And sometimes it's really hard. Like, I'm a big screenwriter. I love writing movies and TV and stuff, and it's one of my passions. And no, you haven't seen anything I wrote because we're not there yet. But maybe one day. My point is like, to use that as an example, like, it's hard to show someone a script and say, hey, take a look at this. Because a lot of people will get like paralysis, and like Mike made an example of it, be like, oh, I'm afraid of being judged. If I never complete something or if I never put it out there, I don't run the risk of being judged. And that's a very scary place, is to be vulnerable.
Very
and I also
scary.
think it is, yeah. And I think it's very important to find out more about yourself by the way you open yourself to others in the industry. And like, you can never control someone else's reactions or actions. You can only ever control the way you receive them and the way you respond. So, and that's a big life lesson that took me a lot of therapy to learn. But to bring it back into game design, and this is also something I learned in screenwriting, which is, what is the note behind the note is the quote. So what's the note behind the note? So if someone comes to you and they go, this game sucked, I didn't draw enough cards, I didn't have any options, for us to learn to say, instead of going, oh, this person hated our game, like, whatever, they can go kick rocks, it's more like, okay, wait, hold on, stop. How can we use every note to make our game better? What did I hear? I heard a lot, but the big note was, I didn't draw enough cards. Maybe we need to add more card draw. That's the note behind the note, which is frustrated. They were frustrated because they didn't have enough options. So how do we bring this in? Like, that's a good note.
That's a great example.
Yeah. Even if they're not articulating it kindly,
right?
It's a good note. And for us, a big lesson
That's
was
a very
going,
good
all
note.
right,
Yes.
don't like the way they said it. Their note was really good. We need to fix some things.
We give each other about 10 minutes of vent time where we vent out how we feel about something, and then we're like, never again. And we let it go behind us, and we take the note behind the note, and then we continue on.
Logan's great at that, at calming me down, being like, all right, got that out. What was the note? And I'm like, we need more card draw. So, yeah. But it's scary to be vulnerable. Yeah.
It's very scary. So, interestingly enough, I love how y'all set this up for me. So the Roman orator and philosopher Seneca, he said that we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality. What did PJ just say? What does that mean? It means that we imagine perceived hurt because of our fear, and then rather than in reality, you're not hurt at all, but you feel like you're hurt. I suffer from this constantly, right?
So do I.
Yep.
I mean, and what's interesting is this also ties into some of the motivation behind FDR when he was inaugurated in 1933 as U.S. president. He's like, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, nameless, unreasoning, that paralyzes efforts to take advance into retreat. And it's like, I butchered the end of that quote because I'm always excited.
I liked it. I'm locked in. I liked it. Yeah.
So, Sean, you're talking to a guy with a master's in history, so you can nerd out all day. You're great. This is good. But I was just thinking about that because that is the problem, right? Everything begins, you've heard me say it, it begins with me and then us and then the bigger community. And the first thing is you got to be willing to be vulnerable. Yep. And I don't know about the two of you. I'm not always willing. I sometimes fail in being vulnerable. I get scared sometimes too, when you put yourself out there.
I'm with you. Especially to strangers. Like, it's easier to it's hard to be vulnerable to your friends. It's hard to be vulnerable to your family. Some people find it easier to be vulnerable with strangers because what are the stakes, right? Some actors are like, oh, it's just an audience of nobodies, so I can be as vulnerable as I want. But then that goes both ways. It's like, I also don't know you, so there's a lot there. Yeah.
Definitely. I think we're very lucky. Again, we kind of harp on this a lot where it's like we're a trio. So our first step is being vulnerable with the other two. And it's always welcome in open arms, even if it's another game that has a mech in it. And then it's like we will always just receive an idea openly and strive to then just work on that idea and mold it into something all three of us can then work on.
Well, Mike, you did. I want to bring something else something else up about this that is less so about game design, but more about us, where it's like we've also become really, really good friends through this process.
Sure.
We were pretty good friends. Mike and I were pretty good friends. Mike introduced me to Logan, and we've all become. My point is this: the ability to be vulnerable with each other has like started to morph into other places. Where the example I like, and Mike might not even remember this, I was kind of panicking about a promise I had made to my family and a promise I had made to Glasshouse to be in two places at once, and I messed up, and I was stressed, and I was like, felt really horrible about having to call Mike and be like, "Hey, man, I can't go to this thing that we said we'd go to." And he goes, "Mike, you said, dude, I love Glasshouse and I love you guys, but family will always come first. And it is those relationships that like are the most important to us, and it's those relationships that like make us good human beings." That we can come into this world and then like sit across the table from a stranger and treat them like family.
Right.
So I was like, huh. So I've learned a lot from working with these guys, just about one, about business sense, and two, about games, and three, about being like games. What I didn't expect to learn is like how to be a better person.
Yeah.
Through this process, which is really, really eye-opening and leaning into a little bit more, like you said, vulnerability. So
I think that gets lost sometimes, right? Like being a good gamer can help you to be a good person. And then that helps you in dealing with other gamers in the community and nurturing the concept of community. Also, especially right now, we need that, right? We need good gamers. We need good people, right?
Yeah.
To walk out in the world and deal with all that. Speaking of the elephant in the room, what has it been like since the announcement of tariffs, the trade wars? So, and there's really two components to this. One is the uncertainty of what's it going to be like a week from now when you launch, a year from now when you're ready to ship, right? What is that going to look like? And then there's the 145% tariff on China, and China's so pivotal to this industry. What is it like entering this industry as game designers in this trade war? What has that been like, and how are you navigating?
Yeah, it's nerve-wracking, obviously. Just the complete unknown of it all is horrifying. As a gamer and not a business person, not a company, as a gamer, I'm angry. I'm upset. It's an easy emotion to sort of have in this time, because it's like, what an industry to get hit so hard. Like, it's not like tabletop. Like, yes, there are some big name companies in the tabletop sphere, but tabletop is mostly comprised of smaller companies that bring out these awesome games and hit it off with their first product. So it's like, what an industry to absolutely like almost capsize in a way. And we're all seeing it with the articles we've been reading, the layoffs, the companies that are going under, the companies that are on indefinite holds for their next announced project. It's horrifying. Like and then like, we get, like I said before, we have a lot of, mentors and friends we made in this industry over the past couple of years who also, air their own caution to us, or it's like, are you sure that you want to move forward? Which is a totally valid thing to ask us. And we would be more upset if people weren't asking us that as we got closer. So that shows that people actually care. And we, there was a moment where we weren't sure, and we really had to talk it out. And it was a long call one night, and we really talked it out. We looked at all the numbers. Logan, our big logistics brain, whipped up a spreadsheet with how this was going to affect us and our manufacturing costs and how we were going to sort of proceed. And we decided, with all that being said, the momentum we have right now going into launch is too great. And frankly, we are just running out of a budget for ad spend. So it's like, it's risking the loss of that momentum and going sort of dark and then launching later versus just launching and crossing all fingers and toes over the next 6 months or so that those sort of tariffs change, or at least stay where they are, so we can at least adjust and account for it accordingly. Obviously, hopefully go away completely or just lower. But you never know. A tweet at 2 a.m. can change everything. But it's been scary is the obvious answer. Nerve-wracking, frightening, but we are persevering. We are all supporting each other. We're getting positive affirmation from those around us, and we just can't. It's almost a part of my brain too. It's like, I feel like I can't wait anymore. It's like I don't. It's almost as if we're being punished by something so utterly out of our control for something we've worked so hard for, and it's like I can't possibly think about waiting indefinitely from this thing we've worked for so hard.
That is like the sad truth of it, is that it's people, we'll call them at home, companies at home, that are suffering.
Right.
and the players would be suffering. Like, so my you're talking like the basis of your question was like how does it felt to be in this arena right now? And yeah, it's kicked off with like a huge amount of fear. Like, it has suddenly inundated the industry. It's steeped it in uncertainty and fear. Something though that has been a big beacon for us has been, we don't know. We don't know. And that can be scary to a lot of people. It is the foundation of hope. And like, if you're religious, you might call it faith. I'm not, but I still like the word faith. Like, I have faith in that this community supports each other, and that this industry won't be defined by 4 bumpy years, or hopefully way less.
Right.
Like, and I don't mean that in any kind of violent way. I just mean like hopefully these tariffs go away.
Right.
Because they could.
They could.
Like, we could get to launch, we could get to manufacturing time, and cooler heads could prevail.
Away. Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden we're okay. You know what I mean? It's not to say that we're not okay, but I think our approach is faith in that if things could be okay, but also more practical faith in if we are transparent and honest about our process, people will show up. So if we say, hey, this is exactly how it will affect you. Here's the tipping. Here's the tariff. We're going to tell you straight up.
Right.
This is what this is costing right now. And if it goes down, then we will make sure that it goes down. We're not going to. We're never going to pull any wool over your eyes or anything like that.
This extra cost only exists because of the 145 we're seeing. And it's like, and ideally in a perfect world, it goes back to utterly normal, like it's been 4 years, and that just goes away and never existed.
But, yeah, I think there's been a lot of like, do we do this? Do we wrap it in? And it's like, you know what? I'm never going to want to trick anybody. I want to come to you like another human and being like, this is our product. This is what the times are like. Please support us, and we will show you exactly where your money's going. And hopefully, just by that relationship, and if not, if you're like, you know what, I hate the way of the world right now. I don't want to spend money on this. I'm not going to put any more money towards therapy. Like, we get it.
Yeah,
we get it. But it's that transparency and that honesty that like we would rather do that. I'd rather be here. I'll put it this way: I'd rather be honest and fail, which I don't think we will. But I'd rather be honest and fail than succeed by manipulating people.
Sure. Absolutely. And I asked the question not to be a downer. I asked because this was something I thought about a lot before the two of you came on. Y'all have such a unique perspective and an interesting story to tell, and it's worthy of being told. Coming in as a new game designer at this time, right? Because there are so many game designers who have mentored you and helped you and everything like that you were describing in the last hour, that they have been in it for a while. So they've got some strategies and some resources that they can lean on to see them through the next 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever. I don't know what their plans are, but to be coming at it, rather than asking you, why are you releasing your game right now? Like you're being asked all the time. I think you bring this unique perspective because you're doing it despite the tariffs. I feel like you are the perfect example of what I'm trying to tell people about. Stop being afraid and angry. I mean, you could be afraid and angry, but channel this in a positive way. You guys are saying, no, despite all this, we're going forward because we got a product. I love that. Whether this game is for you or not, how can anyone not applaud you for going forward in such a tumultuous time? And I applaud both of you. And I thank you both for coming on and sharing that with us. I love that.
I really appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
Yes.
That means a lot to us because it is nerve-wracking, and maybe it could just be a practical lesson to be like, okay, why is it us? Why do we believe this? It's because we have a couple of practical things in line for us. Our game is relatively light, and
we're crowdfunding. We don't have a warehouse filled with product that's already been made that needs to get shipped over here. So we have a little bit of a timeline where we are as a small indie publishing company versus Hasbro or any of these massive companies. I mean, like, I know Stonemaier Games put out an article or a release statement a little while ago where they're like, we're going to cover the cost of the tariff for the games that have been ordered from our last sort of run to come out to the States. But they can afford that. They're Stonemaier Games. And it's probably still taking a massive hit on them.
Absolutely.
Like, who knows what the actual numbers are on the back end. But, like, we can't do that realistically.
So, I guess it's like the big takeaway is the storm is not the end there's a path. There's always a path through any storm. So like, even if you have to adjust the way you approach games for a little bit, game design for a little bit, and games manufacturing for a little bit, like it's not the end. It's an uncomfortable adjustment that is temporary.
Yes.
And I'm not gonna speak for the other guys at Glass House, but I believe we're launching. So it's like, it's too late. We're doing this. So we're not gonna let, an uncomfortable situation deter us from doing something that we genuinely love. Yeah. So So thank you for saying that, PJ.
Yeah.
I think my last sort of note on that is that we saw what's going on in our industry right now to sort of take it and channel it into a more positive reinforcement of everything going on. We know that sort of, crowdfunding, it's in the name, but we know that the community is such it's, dare I say, the most important aspect of our industry. So we know when we see all these other projects that are lined up for this year, other Kickstarters, other things coming out, we're going to help. Oh, it's going to cost me an extra $10, $15 to support another small company that'll be there for us, and we'll be for other small companies, and we'll all be there for each other. I can't say that everyone can afford it, but I will choose to be as supportive as I can in this time to other people, because I know that they need it just as much as we do, just as much as the next person. And I'm not going to let, the unfortunate reactions of certain people in our government going to stop me from that sort of feeling of community with the rest of my peers.
Right. Absolutely. So once again, I want to thank you both for being on. The game is Whisker Wars. It's coming to Kickstarter on May 13th, which is when you're listening to this episode, because
very cool.
It's almost as if we planned it that way. So for anyone who has not heard about your game or Glass House, tell the listeners, viewers, where they can find you on socials, websites, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. So you can, we are live on Kickstarter right now. So if you, Google Kickstarter Whisker Wars, will be the one that pops up. For socials, we have an awesome Discord channel going. You'll be able to find a link to that through through a lot of places, through our website, which is glasshousegames.co. We could not afford so through that, you can find our link to the Discord, Instagram. We have a lot of fun stuff on there. The point is, I think Discord is where it's at. Really, really awesome, helpful, excited community. That's a lot of lore chats are going on. I'm putting lore in there. People are talking about fun punning animal names. We run online playtests. So if you want to check the game out ahead of time, we run them through Tabletop Simulator is the big one that's going to be up
and
in a moment.
ScreenTop.gg is our two online mediums right now.
So if you're on the fence, there are options to check out the game ahead of time, see if you even like it. So, and if you don't, no hard feelings. But that's where you can find us. And then, if you want to reach out to us directly, we will answer your emails. Our email is hello@glasshousegames.co. So if you want to reach out to us directly and have anything to say, please reach out. We're our open door policy. Yeah. That's us.
Well, again, guys, thank you, Michael, Sean, and please extend my gratitude to Logan as well. Glass House Games, Whisker Wars. Please, guys, remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. The goal right now in October of this year, we will be on YouTube for 1 year. We would love to have 100 followers, subscribers.
Awesome.
If we could get more, that would be great. Come on. Yeah. You can find us on Spotify and all other streaming services. Make sure you please leave comments either for myself or for Sean and Mike about the game. They'll be able to see that on YouTube. And thanks again for watching.
Super. Thank you.